Welcome to the third and final episode of this Open Spine Art Nouveau junk journal. You can find the playlist linked below with the first 2 episodes. In the meantime, I decided to finish the embellishment of my signatures off camera, since this took probably another 5 to 6 hours, so that would have just been too much for the video, but you will definitely get a flip through at the end. Today we're going to finalize the cover and we're going to, of course, assemble the book. This is my May design team project for the Digital Collage Club, and you can find all the links to all the images that I used in this journal linked below for you. In the last episode, we dyed this fabric, which was originally coffee dyed, and we dyed it in this green color for the back sides of our covers. So this is what that looks like, and I'm super happy with that. And we also then re-dyed this piece here, which was the same color as this one, because I felt that this wasn't great with this anymore. So let's see what that looks like. They're obviously not the same color. I mean, this and this are not the same color because this was already dyed in this color before I switched it to this color. I hope that makes sense. So now let's see, because I had a feeling this one here needed to be juicier to work well with the one underneath. So when we try this one here, I have to say I don't like it. I think it would be fine with this color, but I don't really like it with the color of the cover or the flowers, because with this underneath, the flowers come out a lot more again and distract from the image, which is exactly what I didn't want. And thankfully I kept this one in the original color. So surprisingly, I am going to stick with this one, which I really was not expecting, but there you see, you never know until you actually do it. So I'm happy with this layout and the colors, and I can go ahead and glue everything down. I don't have any white fabric glue, so I'm just going to use my tacky glue, and I'm applying this on the fabric itself with a brush, because I want to be sure to not get any blobs showing through to the other side. And it soaks up quite a lot of glue, so you'll need a lot. And this will of course also make your fabric very stiff, which isn't necessary for this project, but just something to note. If that's maybe something you don't want, then don't use this method. Then I'll just smooth it out from the middle so that I don't get any wrinkles. To glue my image on the fabric, I'm choosing to use art glitter glue. This is a bit runny, but I have shaken it. Thank you to all your suggestions and comments, because I have mentioned that my art glitter glue is runny, and I wasn't sure why. There are a lot of theories out there. Most of them say that it has been frozen at some point, which of course I don't know. I did not order this in winter. I mean, most companies don't even ship this in winter. But yeah, I don't know what happened. But yeah, it is runny. As I said, it is a bit better now that I've shaken it, but it's still a lot thinner than I'm used to it. But I obviously don't want to throw it away. And I chose the art glitter glue for this because I know this won't make the paper wavy, which the tacky glue might. And I would be really, really annoyed if that happens on my cover especially. So this way I know there's no wrinkling. Yeah, so that's a perfect application. Before I add the floral embellishments, I'm going to add the fabric to both inside covers. This time I'm going to apply the glue to the cover instead of the fabric, because the cover is the smaller item of the two. And it's also a lot easier to put glue on a hard surface. And now I'll turn it around so that I can see if it's centered and still adjust it. Then I'll make sure it's nice and flat, no wrinkles. And I'll take my big bone folder and just make sure it's burnished well all the way to the edges. Once these are both adhered, we can put these to the side to dry. And I'm going to take this piece here, which is the same tablecloth, and I had put this into the green-brown dye that I had left over. I did that in the last video. And so now I have this strip, which is exactly what I'm going to need for my binding. I will need 3 strips to go onto the cover. So 1, 2, 3. It's not exactly the same color, but I totally don't mind. Actually, I think it's nice when everything is not the same color. I want to be sure that this cover doesn't move. You know, like sometimes when you have open spine bindings, the cover moves too much, and I don't like that. I want to make sure it will be as sturdy as possible. So I want to make sure that this is stiff. So again, I'm just going to take my tacky glue, and it would help if it was open. And make the fabric stiff. And I will just add glue to one side of this strip. I don't know exactly how long my pieces need to be, but I'll just glue a whole strip and then I'll cut the pieces to the length that I need. Okay, that should be good enough. So this needs to dry. While that dries, I'm going to start sewing my signatures. I've added 2 paper clips to keep everything together. And now I'm just going to take my awl. I'm going to do a 5-hole pamphlet stitch. I'm going to eyeball this because the way I'm going to do it, I'm going to be covering the spines of each signature with fabric, so I won't see the stitching on the outside, only on the inside. So I'm not worried about things being exactly in the same place in each signature. I'm eyeballing the middle, and then I'm going out from the middle, eyeballing an equal distance, and do the same thing one more time so that I have 5 holes like that. And I will do that for all 3 signatures, and I will just sew them together without sewing them onto a spine or anything. I'm using a mustard colored embroidery thread. I measured 2.5 the length of my book for the length of the thread, and now I'm just going to start in the middle as usual and do what I always do, which is just to go back and forth in the holes, but first going up, then going back down, skipping the middle hole while I go down, and then ending up again coming out here. And when it happens to you, what just happened to me here is on my way back coming out through this hole from the outside, I pierced the thread that was already in there. Here, you see that? So that's not good. So instead of trying to just continue working, I'm going to take this out and, yeah, if necessary, do it over. That's not a situation you want to have on your spine. Because if you just leave that, you'll see that you won't be able to pull your signature tight before you knot it. So yeah, what I meant was I'm going to skip this middle hole now. I'm just going to keep going to the bottom hole and then back up and come out here. Then I'll make sure that it's nice and tight, and I make a double knot, checking again that it's tight here and cutting the ends short. So I'll do that for all 3 signatures. I've sewn all 3 signatures together. This is so much easier than having to sew them to a spine. This was super quick now. And you see they're not quite even, but it really doesn't matter for this binding. So then I have my strip of fabric here. I did add another layer of glue. I took some PVA glue, in German Bastelleim, because I had the feeling it wasn't stiff enough with the tacky glue. Be sure to only add your glue on one side, because as you can see here, it's completely shiny. So the other side is still matte, where I didn't add the glue. So something to keep in mind. And now I want to measure 3 strips. This is kind of why I like embellishing the pages before, so that I know the width that the signatures are going to have once they're done. So I want to measure 3 strips the same length that will go around nicely and have maybe 1.5 inches or even 2 inches on both sides. And I will cut those accordingly. So like this. There's no point in giving you a measurement for this because your signatures are not going to have the same height that my signatures have. So I'll just cut 3 equal pieces. Then I'm going to take my piece of fabric. I am making sure that I have the glossy side where the glue is facing me. I'm going to figure out where the middle is just by folding it a little bit. Then I will mark that. And then I'm going to measure in centimeters, 1.5 centimeters. In inches, it's about 3/4 of an inch from the middle line on either side, which is where my other 2 spines are going to go. So that's where I need to sew. And I'll do that for all 3 pieces of fabric. And having this much space between them should ensure that they will lie flat in the end. But before we sew the signatures on these, this is an optional step. I'm going to add some fabric to my spines. I have these beautifully machine stitched borders here, which I was given to by my friend Honey. Vielen Dank nochmal, Honey. Ich freue mich so über die. If you don't have a sewing machine that can do this fancy kind of stitching, you can just choose any fabric you want. You can even use the same fabric here. You could just glue if you've dyed a piece, or even if it's just coffee dyed or whatever, or you have a cute fabric where you don't need to dye anything, you could just glue this on and that would be great, especially because we'll be covering it like this. So this would work really well. I would use this if I wouldn't have this. But the main reason I want to use these is not because they are beautiful, but because I want to cover this stitching here. Because I just think it looks nicer if we don't see that, and that we'll just see the edge like this. The one thing I need to pay attention to when I'm gluing these pieces on, for example, like here, my first page is not as tall as my second page. So that means I cannot just glue this over the whole thing because then I won't be able to open this page. So obviously I will only be gluing it to the first page so that I can then still open it. So I'm again going to use my tacky glue and start on one side. Then I'll add my fabric. And then I'll add glue to the other side. Like that. And now we can still open it because we haven't glued it here on the top and the bottom. But obviously this needs to dry a bit. So I'll do that for the other 2 signatures as well. And it's a good idea once you've glued it here to very gently burnish it from the inside as well. But be very gentle because this paper might tear very easily. Just to smoothen it out a little bit more. Okay, so I have my 3 spines covered and I think it looks adorable. And now I'm going to take my strips of fabric, and with the shiny side inside, I need to then sew these signatures onto our fabric strips. And I need to decide where I want these. And I think we will have the most stability the wider apart they are. So I want one pretty close to the top and I want one pretty close to the bottom, and then a middle one. So it might make sense to mark that with a pencil on all 3 signatures so that I know where I want these to be. There might be an easier way of doing this, but this is what I came up with. So that's here. Maybe if you have a chalk, that would be better even than a pencil. And now for the trickiest bit, we need to actually sew these signatures onto these strips. I'm going to start off with the one that's in the front, so with my first line. And if I can still see my lines here, which I can, then I know where to place these. And I will just sew this on, like by stitching around it once. And I'm going to use the same thread that I used for the inside, otherwise I will have two different colors of threads there, here. So I just need a short piece. Then I just make sure that I'm lined up here with my first line and my mark there. And then I make sure that doesn't move. Would be smart maybe to put a washi tape there. Maybe I'll do that. Or just a paper clip maybe, just to make sure that stays in place. Then I'll take my awl and I'll poke 2 holes right in the spine. So now I know where to poke through from the inside. Like that. And back in. Like that. Whoops! Then I tie another double knot. Make sure it's tight, which is a bit more difficult since the thread is only through 2 holes. It opens up very easily. And now we see the stitch here. I can cut this short. And I will do that for all 3 pieces. Let's see where my marks are. And maybe this time I will do it with washi tape because my paper clip won't get here. And then sew that on and do the same thing with the third. And then do that for all of the signatures, then, you know, sew the second one on the second line, etc. until we have them all connected. So I poked my holes, I have my washi to hold it down, and I'll do the same thing. Now obviously we're going to have probably a weird situation in here on the spine with the threads, but we'll see if we can figure something out for that as well. Maybe there's a reason why nobody does this kind of binding. Maybe it doesn't make sense. But we'll see. Maybe it will make sense. I hope so. Yeah, I think the hardest part is really trying to get this knot to be tight. Because while you're knotting your second knot, the first one comes loose and it won't stay closed unless you really pin it down with your finger. If you have someone else there that can help you, I think that would be great. After attaching the first one, I just realized that I don't have enough thread for all 3 signatures. Good job. I mean, I don't have enough thread of the same color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this color for the middle signature, which is very close to this color. And yeah, then the middle one will be different, which is fine for me. So now for the second signature, I'm again going to line it up with my middle line. And then I'll fold it over and again add some washi tape to make sure that stays where it needs to stay. And I'll do that for all 3, I think, at the same time this time. Now I can check that it looks all right, which it does. It looks even here. So I can go ahead and poke my holes and sew through those strips again. When I poke my holes through now, I can see where the other hole was, so I can poke the hole at the same height. Okay, the second one is sewn in. You can barely tell it's a different color, only if you look very closely. And now we'll take these off again and we'll do the final signature. If you've never bound a journal before, this probably isn't the best one to start out with, because this part here is really quite tricky. You need a lot of patience. So I'll do the same thing here. Line it up where I have my lines and then stick the washi back on. Third and last round. Let's just double check. Yeah, this looks fine. Okay, they're all sewn onto the fabric. I'm happy that part is over. And before we glue these ends onto our inside cover, I do need to do something with the middle of the signatures because I hate the way they look. Obviously they look like this now. We have these gaps in between here, and I just hate that I have the 3 knots here and it just looks horrible. So my solution is going to be to add some more of these fabric strips. Thank goodness I had another fabric strip, so I'm able to do this easily, and it goes with the colors that I already have. You can also use washi tape, or you take some coffee dyed paper or a book page or any kind of other paper that you have and just glue that over. And I'm going to do this again with my tacky glue by putting that on the fabric. You could probably water it down a little bit with water. Actually, I just made a mistake. These strips need to be, again, only as long as your middle piece of paper and not as long as your whole signature, because again, you need to be able to fold it. So again, keep that in mind, not like me. I just forgot it. So I'm going to have to cut this down a little bit. I have the feeling this kind of binding is taking a lot of planning, or maybe just because I've never done it before. I don't know. It's definitely a challenge. But it's good because I'm learning new things, so that's always fun. Okay, that doesn't look so bad. Now I'll do that for the other 2 signatures as well. Side note, I think this needs to dry before we can move on, because otherwise this will probably stick together, which is not a good idea. So let's wait a little bit. Patience, patience. Okay, I've put in the second one and I've decided I cannot wait. So I am just putting a piece of baking paper right in the middle of the signature, and that should do the trick as well. Who has time to wait that long, huh? Next, I'm going to take my glue and put glue on these 3 fabric strips. Then I'm taking my backside cover, making sure it's the right side up. With this one, it doesn't really matter, but maybe for yours it would. So figure out where you cut it off. That one should be on the inside, of course. And then I'm going to glue these on. And I think the best way to do that would be to lay that flat and then to lay this here and to make sure the signatures are in the center like this. And now I can press it down. I'll do the same thing for the front. And then I'll line this up as well, making sure the front and the back line up on the top and the bottom. And then I'll turn it around and burnish these down. So let's check that it's in the right position. And then I'm going to put some clamps here. You can also weigh it down with heavy books until this is really adhered well. And actually I'm going to put this here in between so that it doesn't get stuck on my first page. And the same thing with the back side. Then I have these super strong clamps. Mine are from Wolfcraft. Really heavy duty. Got them from Amazon Germany. And I will leave that for at least an hour. It's the next day. As you can see, I've taken the clamps off. So this is what it looks like from the spine. I think it looks really cute. And what I really like about it is how flat it lays. It's absolutely flat, and it has room to grow still because we left some space between the signatures. So I really love that aspect of it. It is a little bit wobbly. That's something to note. If you don't like wobbly, then this is not the binding for you. What I do love that it lays absolutely flat. Like when you are in the signatures, it's really flat, and that's really nice. So let me give you a complete flip through. I also have a flip through with music only. So if you prefer that, then please head on to the link in the description box. I did add a few sequins. There's some wallpaper here as well. This lace holder I attached just on the top and the bottom to make it a belly band, into which I added this coffee dyed paper for some space for notes. And this stamp are from a Tim Holtz set, which is this one. I was gifted this, but I did find it on Amazon, so I will link this for you below. So those are these two stamps that I used. Added another sequin up there. This is a collage with one of the bookmarks. Some stamping here, wallpaper there. I turned this little note card into a pocket. Some more collaging here. This was the page where I had the pink distress oxide, and I really didn't like the way it looked, so I just added this piece of paper on top. And this side I covered with a pocket. A little collage on there. This stamp here is also a Tim Holtz. It says Telegram. And that comes from this set. This one I have not found, and I can't link it for you. I have no idea what the name is. I was gifted this one as well. Another collage here with that number stamp with this one. Didn't do anything here. As I said, I didn't want to over embellish this. These middle of the signatures where we glued the fabric are of course a little more stiff. I do believe they will bend more easily with time if you open and close them a few times, but I think it's fine. And I added some stamping here on the top and the bottom. If I can find those stamps online, I will link them in the description box for you. This here is a little tuck spot. And this paper I added here was a test paper on which I tried my new sprays. And I added some stenciling around it. Really like how that turned out. I added some stenciling here and there where I thought it looked too empty. Here it says, "Not all who wander are lost." This is again from this stamp set. That's this stamp here. Here I added another lace holder as a belly band and added this card from the Digital Collage Club. Added some more stamps here. These are obviously not Tim Holtz. This is again from a different stamp set, which you will find linked below if I find it. Another tuck spot here. Added a sequin to her hair and some stenciling. That's the end of signature 1. A little collage here with some fabric, some more stenciling. And here, of course, now we have this gap, which doesn't bother me in the least. As I said, I really love how flat this lays. That's really cool. These first pages of the signatures are, of course, a little bit stiff now as well because we added the glue. But I also think that will get better with time. There's another tuck spot here with a little bit more stenciling. Another tuck spot here. And I added a piece of one of the fabric pieces that I used here, where I had to cut off a piece. Some more of those Tim Holtz bird stamps. Just a little collage Again, those number stamps. There's a bird stamp, that's not Tim Holtz. Another collage here with some more stenciling. I really like how that turned out. This one is just stuck on. Some more stamping here. I'm really liking the long threads. I'm totally going to leave those. Another tuck spot here. Added another sequin, and this is again from my test paper with the inks. Those are like my favorite tuck spots. And this one I just glued on, but I glued some interesting material in the back that has like a glittery design on it. It's kind of hard to tell. Little collage here. Another tuck spot. Stenciling. More stenciling. There's that number stamp again. Here's one of the bookmarks and another piece of that test paper. Another little collage up here with some stenciling. That's the end of signature 2. And then we have signature 3. This is from the Art Nouveau journal kit. And then I cut out this butterfly from another page, added the sequins, and then I put a zigzag stitch through the body of the butterfly, and I left the 2 threads hanging on the top, which kind of now look like the butterfly's antennae, and I really love that. That's something I will definitely be doing again. Another little collage here. Added some more stenciling there, as well as here. This is from the journal kit, and then I added this image from one of the ATC cards, and I added some gold stenciling in the background. This is a top-loading tuck spot. This is baking paper with some gold acrylic paint on it, and then I added another piece of paper underneath and this image, as well as some more stenciling here. I really like this double page here. It's very calming to me. I added some more stenciling here. This is another little collage with some fabric and some packaging underneath. This is the middle of the 3rd signature with my eco prints. I have another big tuck spot here. Underneath again is baking paper, which was like my paper for my table. Another collage here with again the number stamp on my wallpaper. This is one of the Alphonse Mucha ATC cards, and I added one of these flowers that I also have in the front with some dyed cheesecloth underneath. Another beautiful stamp up here. Some more stenciling. Here's a pocket with some beautiful jelly plate printing from Sweet Honey. Love it, love it, love it. Then I added these 2 journaling cards. Some more stenciling, another tuck spot on top of the journaling page, and another cutoff from that beautiful stitching from Honey. And then another one of the Alphonse Mucha ATC cards with some collage paper underneath and some distress oxide in forest moss that I just stripped on there, and I really love how that turned out. And there's our back cover. So there it is. I am happy with how it turned out. I'm happy that I tried something new and different. I do like how this open spine looks. I think it's great that there is plenty of room to grow. I really love that about it, and I'm willing to accept the fact that it's a bit wobbly. So maybe it's something you want to try, but don't lose your patience with the binding, please. So just have fun with this. Love you guys.
Mwah, mwah.